Racism or tradition? A dance that has been performed for decades at one of the world's biggest carnivals.
Nos pintamos de negro para demostrarle a los blancos que ellos no son los únicos que tienen el poder.
But is it a tradition that needs to stop?
Nosotros nos pintamos de blanco para mostrarlos a ustedes.
Colombia has the second largest black population in Latin America, but Afro-Colombians face some of the most deprived conditions in the country. Today their social leaders are risking their lives to fight for civil rights and representation. Is it time for Colombia to rethink its attitude towards race? Thousands flock to the city of Barranquilla every year to celebrate Colombia's rich cultural heritage. So this is Barranquilla Carnival. It's diverse, it's fun, people are dancing and drinking. Probably what you'd expect of a carnival. But there's also something that you might not. This is one of the carnival's most famous dances. It supposedly represents black slaves taunting their white slave owners with exaggerated facial expressions. But for me, it's uncomfortable to watch. Use of blackface has a long history in the Americas and Western Europe. Since the 1800s, white and black performers have darkened their skin and exaggerated African facial features for the entertainment of mainly white audiences. Today, performances and protests against blackface happen around the world. Many see it as reinforcing the colonial depiction of Africans as unintelligent, unserious, and subservient. The scenes are similar here at Barranquilla Carnival, but is this tradition different?
Nos pintamos de negro para así demostrarle a los blancos que ellos no son los únicos que tienen el poder. Les sacamos la lengua para hacerle burla, de libertad, porque ellos nos tenían como esclavos. Los blancos eran los que mandaban.
I might be the only person here who finds it a little bit problematic, because everybody else seems to be cool with it.
O sea, están representando al negro, la raza negra. Y ustedes saben que es un aporte muy importante que hicieron a nuestra cultura.
Pues es su tradición, los negritos puloy. Entonces, no me parece incómodo.
Nosotros sí nos consideramos negros, podemos tener muchos aquí el color claro, pero somos de descendencia africana, porque nosotros somos una mezcla trienia, africano, indio y español. Como nosotros tenemos esa piel negra, para hacerles homenaje tenemos que preparar polvo mineral con aceite de cocina, para pintarse la piel, que se vea bien negra, para hacer el homenaje bien hecho a esa descendencia africana.
So these young men are adamant that their performance is about empowerment. But we do know that the tradition of blackface has been one that has publicly mocked people of African heritage. So what do we make of all of this? And what does it tell us about race in South America? Just 2 hours down the Caribbean coast is the city of Cartagena. For years it was Latin America's main gateway for the slave trade. Tens of thousands of African people were snatched from their home countries and brought here to be traded throughout the 16th and 17th century. Today, Colombia is home to more than 5 million people with African heritage. It has the second largest African descendant population in Latin America. So I'm heading to the region of El Chocó, where Afro-Colombians make up 82% of the population. It's also the poorest part of the country. Many African slaves were brought here to work in mines and timber logging, and eventually made their homes here. This is the city of Quibdó. It's the capital of this region, and you can really feel the African influence that many here are proud of. But this is a complex part of Colombia. Some of the communities in this region live on land initially given to the first freed slaves. I'm here to speak to their descendants about the inequalities that still exist to this day. This is Professor Sergio Mosquera. He's a specialist in Afro-Colombian history, and this is his self-funded memory center to document the forgotten contribution those of African heritage have made to Colombia. So what does he make of Colombia's blackface tradition?
Aunque los movimientos corporales, la expresividad del baile es de esencia africana, la forma como lo representan es de una esencia salvaje, de una esencia selvática.
Many of the people we saw wearing blackface and performing this dance were Afro-Colombian young men. Why were they doing that?
Uno de los problemas grandes que tenemos es que todavía nosotros, los afrodescendientes, los afrocolombianos, tenemos el chip de la esclavitud, de la colonización en la mente y no lo hemos descargado porque no hemos recibido una educación para la liberación, sino una educación para la dominación.
What dominates this landscape is the Estado River. helping children to get to school and their parents to get to work. The villages along the river are some of the poorest places in Colombia. Here it's easy to see why the spectre of slavery isn't such a distant memory.
Almost 200 years since slavery was abolished here, and when you look at the shacks along this bank, you think, what has actually changed for Afro-Colombians in terms of living standards?
Official figures from 2017 show that in El Chocó, almost 60% of people live in poverty. That's double the national average. And a third of people live in extreme poverty. That's around 4 times the national average. Black Colombians are more likely to be poor and less likely to finish school. Even protecting the rights of your community can be deadly. Since the start of 2016, around 462 social leaders and human rights defenders have been murdered in Colombia. In 2018, 164 human rights defenders were killed, with indigenous, Afro-Colombian and rural communities particularly at risk. Back on dry land and back in the capital of Quibdó, I've come to meet Cesar. He's a social leader who has experienced that danger. He's received a number of death threats in recent years.
En la última amenaza que recibí, ingresaron a mi casa y hicieron muchos, digamos, intimidaciones en cuanto a que me dejaron mensajes explícitos de que ya sabían dónde vivía yo. Y me ha tocado cambiarme de casas muchas veces. Y en ese momento la persona emocionalmente tiene muchas complicaciones. Para dónde me voy, qué hago. Entra muchos conflictos internos las personas.
Cesar also took part in a successful protest back in 2015 to get rid of this controversial blackface character on Colombian TV.
Es un trato agresivo hacia las comunidades negras de este país. El colombiano no interpreta eso como un acto agresivo, sino como un acto cultural. Yo protesto y hago saber de que ese tipo de comportamiento no puede ser aceptado y tolerado en una sociedad donde se pueda vivir libremente y con el respeto debido a cada uno de los integrantes.
Despite the risks, a new wave of activists are becoming more vocal on race and human rights in Colombia.
So tonight I've come to a local hotspot to hear from young Afro-Colombians about what they hope for the future of their country.
Es verdad que como colombianos, como negros colombianos, estamos un poco olvidados, pero ahí poco a poco nos vamos metiendo en los espacios. Entonces sí pienso que poco a poco lo hemos ido como visibilizando.
And when it comes to blackface, this group of young Colombians have a clear message.
It is against black culture, against black people, against our community.
Nosotros nos pintamos de blanco para mostrarlos a ustedes.
El Son del Negro, translated, means the sound of the black man. It may be a tradition, but it seems that many Afro-Colombians want to speak with a new voice to defend their culture and communities. Perhaps it's time for the country to start paying attention to what they really have to say.